That's it. As long as that point is somewhat sharp, not rounded from hitting a rock, you're going to be in business. Take your file and your flat file and your scrunch. That's all you need. You don't need no fancy grinder. This is a video that I've been meaning to make for a long time. Yeah, I just want to share what I know about chainsaws and chainsaw sharpening. So this is a video about what I know about chainsaw sharpening and what I've learned over the years from my experiences. So early on, early 20s, me and a buddy, we had a firewood business. We bought a skidder. We were cutting firewood, hauling and selling firewood. Before that, in my late teens, I was a slasher, cutting lines by hand, following dozers in the bush, and again, chainsaw work. And before that, of course, I was sawing up wood, sawing up wood in my yard. As a 12-year-old dad handed me the saw, the XL12, and said, here you go, cut up the wood for the winter. And, of course, then I would, saw, and then the saw would get blunt, strike a rock, and then he would have to pick up and sharpen the saw for me. So, and then I've learned, and then a buddy of mine that I've, known all my life, pretty much, he worked in the bush as well. My partner when we had the skidder, and I've learned lots from him. He had a lot of good ideas. So just stuff that I've kept going and built on over the years. So I'm going to share some of that with you. I see a lot of people, and this is in no way to criticize anything that you're doing. I just hope that you'll learn a little bit and maybe pick up some stuff and save you some headaches, I guess, and make you a better filer, make you have a better experience when you're using your chainsaw. So anyhow, let's get with. So I'll talk first about the saw. So I used to be Husky all the way, and like the Huskies, Johnson Reds are good. Now I'm Echo. A guy. There was a small shop where I lived, one place, and he convinced me that Echo were good saws. I tried it, I liked it, and I stuck with it. It's simple as that. So I like Echo. I think they're a good quality saw. Never had a hitch. I only take one saw in the woods ever. All my life, I've never taken more than one saw in the woods at a time. Never had a breakdown. If you take care of your saw, if you know your saw, maintain it properly. For instance, here's this coil of rope, pull cord rope, I've been carrying around for 30 years, basically, and never used it. Because as soon as I see the rope fraying, I'm going to fix it when I'm home, right? It's not going to be perfect and then all of a sudden break. So, some other things I carry around, a scrunch, right? The wrench and the screwdriver, the scrunch. And I always find a nice makeup bag to put this stuff in. Comes in handy. Not my makeup, by the way. And, so scrunch, I even got two of them. Your flat file for your rakers, I'll talk about that in a minute. Just a knife, first aid kit, another scrunch, and then a file, or a couple files in case you lose one. And then a file handle. Don't waste your money on a file handle. Just go cut a dry alder. And you just drive it in there, or a green one, whatever. Birch, any piece of wood, it's great for a handle. Perfect. So, anyways, my saw here I'm using mostly now for cutting logs is a Echo CS4910. So it's a 50cc saw, basically. So I'm in the wintertime now. So for wintertime use, no matter what saw you have, you need to block off the bottom of your air intake. So all that air coming in for the winter is needed for the summer, but in the wintertime it's cooler. And then when you lay the saw down in the snow, you don't want that going in and freezing things up, right? Because it'll go in there as snow and ice, and then it'll melt and then get blown around your carburetor rods and stuff, and then you start freezing up and cause you grief. So go ahead and put some duct tape. Works great on the bottom part of your pull cord cover, and that'll save you some headaches. So let's talk about bars. When you're buying a saw and the bars and stuff, and keeping the bar tight. So you see here, we get the little hole for that little greaser that they sell you. And, I don't know if I've ever bought one, but maybe years ago when I didn't know any better, but don't waste your money on buying a little bar greaser. It's a waste of money. Total waste. I've taken multiple bars, brand new, put them on the saw, run them. Never ever grease a bar in my life. Never had an issue. I've had tips blow because they're worn out. That grease is not going to make a difference. Your bar gets oil, proper chain oil, and that will your bar tip will last as long as it's going to last with that. So don't even throw that in the garbage. You don't need it. It's a waste. So then keeping your chain tight, basically in the middle of your bar, this is a 16-inch, and you just pull up, and then just so the teeth just clear. This is this might be ideal, but maybe even a shade on the loose end, because a loose chain will pop off quickly, easier, and you're getting a lot of side movement on your bar, a lot of wear. So a nice snug chain is going to be better. Plus, you're going to get this is the most used spot. You see the paint's coming off here? Because right here, in this little bit, this is the most used spot, top and bottom. See? And then, of course, when you're junking, you're back here. But when you're limbing and all that stuff, all the abuse happens right here, right? And you can get some bars that are replaceable. You just pop out the rivets, just change the tips. But now, like this one's a complete bar. Everything is, you change it all when it fails. So, yeah. So, anyways, that's my tip on that, is to keep your chain tight as you can. You don't want it too tight, of course, but if you can raise up and see most of the drive tooth on the bottom there, well, then you're good. Now, of course, there's the pitch and the bar thickness, like the groove for the drive teeth. I'm not going to get into that because that's different for every saw. Just you know, pay attention to that when you buy a saw and stuff, okay? Now, also there's different size files for different chains. So, I don't have my glasses here. I think I'm running a 3/16 is what I'm running here on this saw, I guess. Yeah, so here I have a brand new chain. So you all know what a chain looks like, right? So you get your lefts and rights, and you got your, now this is I don't know what the name, but it's a square tooth chain, like a nice sharp square tooth. A lot of times now, I think they're called safety chains. They're actually rounded. They're not squared, and they're rounded. And that's a little bit of a safety so they don't hook, I guess. Professionals will use a square tooth. You get a better sharpening and a better cut with a square tooth. I think my saw has the round tooth on it right now because it's the original chain, so I'm just going to wear it through, right? And you'll get a liking for how sharp you like your saw. Mine needs to be sharpened right now. It's kind of like, whatever. And I do it on the run. So I'm going to get into that in a second. Get in your head to learn to do it by hand, okay? Is not a great difficulty. Is not a exact science, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's not exact science. Yeah, so that is a round tooth. You see that? Hope you can see how that's rounded. So I can't get that as sharp as I can get this one. Okay? There's just one cut. Okay? As well as this one. So for the professional homeowner, whatever you can get cheap probably is good enough. I'm going to wear that out, and then I'm going to go with these, right? Square tooth. So I got some illustrations. Excuse I don't have a whiteboard. I am going to make a sticker board here eventually, but I just got some illustrations of a tooth to try to explain what I'm doing here. So we know that the tooth is just a down view, looking down view, looking down upon a tooth. Okay, so here's my tooth. Here's my tooth here, and here's my picture. Okay. My picture on the wall here to illustrate that, okay, from the looking down view. Now, I don't know what this is the mark that comes on the tooth. All the new chains has a mark, and that's a guide. That's a guide for you to somewhat stay close to as possible. You'll get a feel for it. You're gonna feel for your angle. It'll be rough, and all of a sudden smooth. Okay, you got her. And of course, you're looking for right here. You're looking for the sharpness here, nice and detailed, sharp. When you strike a rock with a chainsaw, because your tooth is also on an angle. Let me see. It's always also on an angle like this, so the sharp part of your tooth is higher. Let me just see if I can show you that. Let's see here. Let's see this one here. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but that point right here is a little bit, is not level. It's a little bit higher. Okay. And don't quote me on the angle. I think 10 degrees or something like that, maybe. I can't remember. It's not important to know the numbers. Okay, it's not important. So when you strike a rock or something with your saw, you blunt it. This is what happens. You make this round. You round this off, and now she don't bite, right? Because she's starting to cut here, and then the rest of this edge is sharp. So, but if you don't bite in here, this is not gonna, nothing's gonna happen back here, okay? So, on this illustration, the side view, same thing. Here, you're rounding this off, making it round instead of sharp, right? You're making it round, okay? So everybody can understand that. So, now I have a friend of mine that likes exaggerating this angle. So this is what the factory, I don't know what this is, I can't remember what the exact number. It doesn't matter, not important. He likes exaggerating the angle. So let's just say I'm gonna cut this tooth off here. He likes doing like this. Okay, now you'll take away some meat on a brand new chain to make it like that, because he says if you do, when this starts to go blunt, this is still cutting better than this guy. Okay, so I've tried that over the years, and I'd somewhat agree. And it depends on what kind of wood. We were in burnt timber, and he used to really swear by this method to do a greater angle. And your tooth then will stay sharper. Even though it's a little bit blunt, it'll stay sharper. You can go longer without sharpenings. Now, he likes a really good sharp saw, too. So, it's all what you're used to, right? Now, so, that's, you know, that's something to consider. It's not, this is not end of the world if you change this angle. If you find that your edge of your tooth is creeping up on you, get it back, because you're not doing any justice by, you know, by going with a flat tooth. You're not cutting as well as you should. So keep it at this angle or go a little greater. You won't go wrong with that. Okay, so this is what I got drawn here. So this is the greater angle, regular angle. I draw this to show milling. If you're milling with a chainsaw, which I've done, I've cut, I'd say, 20 to 30,000 board feet with a chainsaw mill. Husqvarna 3120 with a 28-inch bar. And I've filed away many chains and tried different things and experimented. So on a chainsaw, you want about 10 degrees, even almost straight across, and you'll get smooth lumber. The more angle you put on this, the more up and down your lumber will be, because the left tooth is taking a piece and the right tooth is taking a piece, and your left and right, and they're taking gouges out of the lumber, right? And you end up with a bunch of lines in your lumber, which is okay. If you're not, you know, if it's 2 by something, 2 by 4, 2 by 6, it's inside the wall, no one can see it. Who cares, right? So, but if you're milling and you're sharpening your saw and you're getting this up and down, up and down, up and down, it's because your angle, your tooth is too great. Okay, so you can take, there is a proper milling chain. I've tried them. I didn't see a difference. A regular chain, just start filing it flatter, you know, more like this, and then it works just as good. Okay, yeah, works just as good. So if you're struggling with, you know, cost or price or availability, you know, just take a regular chain and do that. Now, here's where here's a point that a lot of people don't know about. Some new people probably don't know a lot about the rakers. So let's get the chain here. So the rakers. The raker is what gauges how deep your tooth bites into the wood. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I don't know what this depth is, the difference in height, what it factory. It's a number. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know what it is. You'll feel, okay? You'll feel the saw. So as your tooth wears, you see the tooth is on an angle, bit of an angle, so that the point is up, right? As you sharpen your tooth down, you have to keep these filed down. Because if not, you'll end up with a sharp saw, but it's just not biting. It should be like pulling a little bit into the wood. And you'll get a feel for that, of how much you like, how comfortable you like that as a saw operator. Okay? You want a good bite so that you're not working as hard. Because if you got to push down on your bar, your handle, your rakers are too high. So you've sharpened your tooth down, and then this distance is close, is narrowing, and now you got to work harder to get your saw to cut, even though it's sharp. Okay, so that's a common mistake by people, is not realizing that you have to cut these down, right? And this is kind of a exaggerated view, but you know, if you get, you know, if this is like 2 centimeters here, and then all of a sudden you get your tooth file down 1 centimeter, well, obviously it's not going to bite, right? It's not going to bite as much. It's still going to cut, it's still going to be sharp, but it's not going to pull, right? So you want a little pull. I like a little pull into the wood. So that makes the work a lot easier. And especially when you're limbing and that kind of stuff, it just snaps them right off, right? Because, you know, the sawtooth, chainsaw, I like to say it don't cut, but it just rips, right? It just rips. So, and I've been cut with a saw enough to have stitches, and not, you know, didn't cut any bones or anything, but that was way back. And anyways, so I think I've covered. So you have to get a feel. Okay, I want to talk about these sharpeners that I hate. And if you own one of these sharpeners, these grinders, you call them, they clamp to your bench, and they got a fine wheel there, and you're taking your chain off, and you're laying it on there, and you're you're clipping that through. In my opinion, a garbage device, piece of garbage. You can't have that when you're in the bush working and you need to sharpen your saw. You can't have that thing there. You can, I guess, but it's a lot of pain in the ass to bring that in the bush. Your file in your back pocket, get it out, zip, 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 off you go again, right? So a waste of time. They do a good job of marketing and telling you can buy them for cheap now on Temu or Amazon or whatever. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Get used to using your file in your hand, okay? You'll be far better off for it, and you'll save a bunch of time and money. So here's what's wrong with those things, in my opinion, is they come down an angle and sharpen your tooth, okay? They get a good sharpen on here, right? No doubt. But guess what? You see how this is round? You come down with that thing, bang, cuts that right off. Not down that deep. Cuts this top roundness right off it. Okay? Now, if you're in the woods and you want to sharpen your tooth, you take out the file. Jeez, now you got to go like this again. Now you're taking around, right? You put your file in, and you go home and you sharpen her again. You cut off that again. And then you go in the woods and you strike a rock and you do this again. Well, there's only a couple times and you got chain gone. You're wasting meat off your chain. You're just throwing it away for nothing. You don't need to. That machine's not going to get your saw any sharper. It's not. You probably won't be real handy the first couple of times, but it won't take long, and you'll have a knack for it. And you're just looking for, you know what a new chain looks like. You're just looking for a sharp edge, right? If you strike a rock, you can see the teeth that are rounded. As long as you got this sharp. Now, here's another thing. If you strike a couple teeth and you end up with a tooth that is almost new, and then the one beside it is worn out. Who cares? Who cares? They don't need to be even. Not necessary. Okay? As long as they're sharp and raker heights are fairly close. Okay? And of course, your raker heights are off, you're going to get jumping. So always when you're sharpening, now if you got to repair a damaged tooth, you struck a rock, just get it sharp. But normally, if you don't strike, if you're just doing a general sharpening on your chain, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At the end of your chain, you'll be pretty close, which is fine. That's it. That's all is required. If you end up with two, different size or different lengths, or sorry, different, lengths of teeth because you struck a rock, who cares? Rakers, very important to get those all the same. So every stroke of the file with those, make sure you count, because you'll get a lot of jumping if you don't. Okay, so as long as they're fairly, and then you can get every chainsaw place will sell a raker file, right? Don't touch your grinder on that. Don't touch your grinder. And you can buy some hand tools that get you the right angle just right. It's not that critical of a feature to get the angle just perfect on every single tooth. It's not. It really isn't. You won't notice the difference. It's a freehand file. It's all you need. And you will get, in a matter of a couple sharpenings, you'll be a pro when it comes to it. As long as you know what you're looking for, right? And if you sharpen your saw, your teeth are sharp, and you put it in the wood and it's not really biting, take out your raker file. Touch those. I suggest on a brand new chain, probably two good hard swipes. And then you're going to notice a difference in the way that thing bites, and you'll be like, wow, right? So I think where most people get it wrong, they sharpen a saw by hand or whatever, and it still doesn't cut real good because they're not taking the rakers down. Okay, that's key. You can take the rakers down that the saw will stall. Like the saw won't have any power. So be careful. You go too much, especially if you got a smaller saw, and especially if you're operating a still or something like that, something smaller, you'll stall it out, and that's no good either. You'll ruin it, right? So you just got to find a happy medium of what you're comfortable with. So you just do a couple sharpenings, and then that aggressiveness will go away. And then it'll go away gradual. With every sharpening, it'll go away because you're actually coming down off your tooth, right? And then you have to go back here and take some more off. So that's the way that works. So, what else? Okay, I forgot to mention a very important thing about sharpening. Forgot to go over, so I'm going to go over that now. So we got the file that I was telling you, 3/16 this one is for this chain. So when your chain gets worn down, I switch files. I have two kinds of files. So whatever your saw calls for, you want that one, and then you want the next size down, smaller. And the reason for that is when your chain gets worn down, halfway, or there's no science to when this is what you do this, but when it gets worn down, you start using a smaller file. And that way, because if you've ever worn a chain down right to the bitter end, the face of it is almost straight up. So this is what I mean. Yeah, so new chain, right? Nice hook into it here, right? This is your cutting edge, right? Your little bevel. Now, you got this, your file's round, okay? And if you're using this file way back here at the end, then this becomes almost right straight. So I hope you can visualize what I'm trying to say here. So as your chain, this is a little exaggerated, but your chain, flat on the bottom in the bar, and up top, it goes down, right? It gets smaller, right? So if you've got something like, what's going to cut better? Something that's like that, or is something like this, right? So this is the effect that you get from your chain sharpener, your tool. You end up with a straight something like that. Okay, this might be exaggerated a bit. And then when you use a round file, you actually get more of a a better edge up here, a better point. Okay. So same idea. When your chain gets worn down, then you start using a smaller file, and you maintain that nice sharper edge, right? A nice pointy edge. Because if you didn't, you got your file here, and then you get the same file here. It's kind of blunt, right? So if you use a smaller diameter, you're going to get more like this. Now you're going to get a better edge, okay? Anyways, that's the best I can explain that, I guess. So, I'm just going to recap here. Raker distance or raker height, very important. You need to get used to that. You need to try that. You can even take the rakers down on a brand new chain if you like it. If you got a big saw, powerful saw, you want some good aggression. You can just a little slight rub, and you'll feel it bite in more, right? And then whatever you're comfortable with, you adjust that. Of course, once you take it off, you can't put it back on. Your angle, and again, it's not a exact science. It'll still cut like this. It'll still cut every which way. It'll cut. So it'll cut any way like that. It'll still cut. You'll still get your chain to cut and saw wood. Not a problem. Two sizes of file. You go buy a new chain at your hardware store or at your place. You want the size that belongs to the chain, and you want the next size down. And then whenever you feel like it, you start using the smaller one, and you end up with a better edge. Okay, so that's a little recap on all that. And so now let's just do some filing here. Let's see. And square tooth. When you go to buy your chains, square tooth. Like this is a round tooth. I should actually take this off, but it's cutting okay. And I've been cutting logs for the last few days, so sometimes you get a two. So here's my trick. Sometimes you get a chain that has two teeth the same way. See this? Just the way it worked out. Just the way it worked out for left, right, and then the length of the chain. So this one's got two teeth the same way. And so now that's my starting point. I'm going to use that as my starting point, okay? So now, if you can see, I don't have, they're a little different angles, right? Each way. Because, ideally you need, if you had a left, I'm left-handed, so this is my backhand now, and I don't get a very good sharpen on my backhand. Or I got to struggle more to do a better job, I guess, right? So now I'm not counting out loud per se, but I'm kind of getting roughly the same. Now, ideally you twist, but I can't twist on this hand, on this angle. When I go the other way now, I'll do a twist. I find I gotta keep my wrist straight, or else every stroke will be different. And that's it. Once you get your chain sharp, all you need is a little rub, right? That's all this is just a little rub. Now I've been cutting logs. I got 20 logs cut and down through the bog, and so it's a bit blunt, but not too bad. I was kind of waiting to do this. Now I got, like I said, I got the angle on this side is a little greater. See, it doesn't take much to do this. It's not a, you know. There we go, back to where I started, right? Now, you'll see how I do the other ones. Okay, so now those two teeth, where are they? There we go, right here. Those two the same way. So I'm going to start now. See, now I can twist my, I can rotate here on this side. So your technique is different from side to side, because unless you're ambidextrous and good at it, you're going to end up with a different thing, right? So you're just trying to four or five, basically is what I'm getting roughly. Oh. And of course, you don't want to be pulling up too high, because in your, you know, you got to keep your file down onto your chain, because if not, you end up with more of a flatter tooth as well. So you might want to, and that's when you'll start, might want to use that smaller file then, right? There we go. Now I know by the way I felt that saw, I felt the way it was biting the last time I used it. So by not touching the rakers, every time I file it, that aggression goes down, down, down a little bit, right? So I'll leave it for now. I'll probably, the next time I file it, I'll probably just do a rub on my rakers, just to keep them down a certain distance, because I like it biting a certain way, right? You don't want it bouncing off. You don't want to be pushing on the bar handle at all. You want it hauling you in a little bit. So again, that's your discretion of what you like. But if you're filing your saw and it seems like it's not sharp, touch your rakers and you'll see the difference. Big difference. That's the most dramatic thing that you'll do to your chain that makes a difference. So anyways, with all that, you will get, you'll pick up some tips here, maybe some things you knew already, maybe some things you didn't know. Anyways, I've been doing this for years. It works great. Buddy of mine. Anyways, this is what we do. And yeah. So throw away those grinders. Don't buy one. Throw it away. Yeah, use it for sharpening something else. Use it for sharpening your kitchen knife or something, not your chain. That's about it that I know of. That's the meat and potatoes of it. It's not, as they say, I hate, rocket science. Is really not. You can see the line there that they put factory. You get it close and that's it. As long as that point is somewhat sharp, not rounded from hitting a rock, you're going to be in business. Adjust your rakers. That's it. And you're in business. You're out. Just take your file and your flat file and your scrunch. That's all you need. You keep your chain tight too. So yeah, that's keep your chain tight, and that's the pointers on the sharpening. So yeah, that's about it. Without rambling on and on and on about this, shoot me a comment. See if I forgot anything. I know there's some guys there that I watch, and they watch our channel that use the saw all the time. They may agree or disagree on some things I've just mentioned, but these things have worked for me, and I don't like doing things if it's not necessary. I think that's a waste of time and waste of energy and thought to do unnecessary things. So I like to keep it simple, and this is how I sharpen a saw, how I've worked over the years, and yeah, it works perfect. So anyways, shoot me a comment, please subscribe, like, and have fun out in the bush and be safe. Wear your safety gear. I always try to wear my pants and my hat, of course, and my earmuffs to save your ears. And take care.